Hi everyone, I'm Jody at Fort Worth Fabric Studio, and today we are going to be doing the final assembly of our Cozy Up Mystery Quilt. So I've got the instructions printed, I hope you guys do as well, and we're going to get started putting these blocks together. We're going to put them together in rows, and we're going to watch the whole quilt come together. For row 1, we are going to sew one block B to a block A, to a different block B, and back to a block A. So I'm going to start with that now. This will be a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and make sure on your block B with the text, make sure your text is running down so that you don't end up with that upside down on your quilt. So we're going to first of all take this one, right sides together with our snowman block, and we're going to put these right sides together and sew this seam right here in 1/4 inch. We will open this up now and sew this block to one of our blocks that has the wood grain at the top. So now this one will go face down here, and we will stitch this seam. Okay, our row is getting bigger. It's now time to put a snowman block face down and sew this seam. Okay, you guys, so here is row 1, all ready to go. That was fast, it's so easy. So now we're going to move to row 2. So you'll want to get your instructions and just line up your blocks, just like this. We're going to start with the block A snowman block and sew it to a block B with the text. And once again, make sure your text is running down this way. So this is going to go right on top here. And we're going to sew our 1/4 inch seam along this side, and then we will continue putting each block on so that we have row 2 that looks just like this. Alright you guys, so here is row 2, all ready to go. We're going to move right on to row 3. This is really some pretty easy stitching. So let's just go ahead and get your instructions out and put your blocks in order. Keep doing a 1/4 inch seam, and I'll be back to see you after I have these done, and then we'll work on our churn dash block row. Okay you guys, so here we are with row 3, all done, ready to go. Our next row is going to be these churn dash blocks, and I'm going to get mine all lined up and come back with some tips for you, because we want to try and match up these points right here, and it can be a little tricky, so I'll be right back. We're going to get started with these churn dash blocks, and they're going to go in the order of dark, light, dark, light. So I've pulled out a dark and a light, and I've put them right sides together. I'm going to suggest that before you sew them in a 1/4 inch seam here, that you pin about right at a 1/4 inch on these two spots where the points meet. And that'll let you open this back up, and you can kind of get an idea if your points are lining up. This one I feel like is lining up really well. I hope you can kind of see that. And of course it's pinned, it's not sewed, so it's not perfect. And this one I feel like is lining up pretty well. A lot of us are beginners, so don't be disappointed if they're not absolutely perfect, but we're just going to do the best we can. So we're going to go ahead. I feel like I've got these lined up about as well as I can get them. The other suggestion before I take this to the machine and sew is if you want to do this at a scant 1/4 inch, which means just about a hair's width less than a 1/4 inch, that'll help when you get to this bulky section where we've got all the seams. That way you'll be just this way of it a tad bit instead of right on top of it. And then when you open it up and press out your seams, that should help all of your points to show. So I'm going to take this here into my machine and see what we can come up with. Alright you guys, I'm really close to this point, so I'm going to have to take my pin out, and I'm going to go super slow over all of this bumpiness here, and I'm going to go make sure that I'm still going just slightly less than that 1/4 inch. Hopefully that's going to let my points line up. And same thing here, pins coming out. And I'm continuing to do what we call a scant 1/4 inch. And go real carefully over all the seams. All right, it's the moment of truth. Let's see how we did. I'm gonna open this up and hope for the best. All right, here's this point, and I'm actually super happy with this one. And let's take a look at this point. Okay, that one looks pretty good too. So I think I'm happy with this. I'm gonna leave this one and move on to the next one. If you aren't happy with how yours turned out, go ahead and rip out maybe a little bit, you know, from here maybe to here, and you can try another time. Once you do it the first time, you might have an idea of what needs adjusted to help you get those points lined up. But I'm gonna cross my fingers for you that you guys got yours to turn out well enough and that you're happy with it. So I'm gonna move on and sew a dark block onto this light block using the same procedure, and then again another be a light block then on the other side. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish these up, and then I'll be right back. You guys, I'm on my last one here, and I'm just going to point out this one at the bottom matched up really nice, but I noticed this one is not quite as good. This little point here really should be closer to here. So I'm going to take my seam ripper and rip out this little section right here, and then repin it and reattach it for you guys, and hopefully that'll meet up just a little bit better. Okay, you guys, so I ripped that little section out there and then repinned it and put it back together, and it is a whole lot better. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it at that. This row is completely done, as you can see, and it's really pretty. I'm super proud of these churn dash blocks. I think they're going to look really nice in our quilt. So we're going to move on to the last row. We are getting so close to having this done. Okay, you guys, we're ready for our very last row. So we're going to stitch these just like those first rows we did, and 1/4 inch seam, and then I'll put these together and I'll be right back. All right, everyone, so last row is done, all put together like this. What we're going to do now is go press our seams, and I left that toward the end instead of doing it as I went along. So you're going to go back to row 1, and you're going to press all your seams to the right. Then on row 2, you're going to press all your seams to the left. And then on row 3, back to the right, and so forth. So you're going to alternate them back and forth. And that's going to make it easier when we line up our rows. There'll be that little bit of nesting seams that we can do. So I'm going to go ahead to the iron and press all my seams. If you can't remember which way to press them, we've got it here in the directions for you. And then I'll be right back. Let's go ahead and get started putting our rows together. If you've got all your seams pressed and you alternated them by row, pressing right, left, and so forth, you should find that when you put them together where your 2 blocks meet, they'll nest right in, because one's going one way and one's going the other. I'm going to recommend, even if you don't enjoy pinning, go ahead and pin everywhere you have a seam, because this is a pretty long row that we're going to sew together, and you don't want to have to try and adjust this as you go. So I've got mine all pinned and ready, and I'm going to start stitching together. I'm going to put all of my rows together, and if you just want to follow along and stitch these first 3 rows together, that's what I'm going to go do, and then I'll come back when it's time to add our churn dash row on. So I'll get sewing and I'll see you in a few minutes. I'm back now with my churn dash row pinned to the rest of the top 3 rows. So my top 3 rows are sewn together. I wanted to mention that it will be better if you sew on top on this side so you can see all these seams coming along that you're trying to just sew over. That way you're not grabbing them and pulling them back. So sew on top of this side, and I think it's handy if you pin almost everywhere you've got a seam here, which is pretty frequently. But that will make it easier as you go along. And I'm gonna sew mine on, and I'm gonna be real careful here at the points because once again, we don't wanna chop off our churn dash points. And I will be back after I have this, this long seam sewn together. All right, folks, here we go. This churn dash row is now sewn on, and again, a moment of truth here to check and see how our points did. I'm hoping that I didn't chop too many of them off. So I'm kind of going to glance through here at each of them. This one looks okay. This one I think looks really good. Yeah, they seem to have done pretty good. So you'll want to just go through and check each of your points, see if any of them need adjusted. If they do, just maybe rip out that little area and work on it. But I think mine came out pretty good, and I was really careful as I went over those little seams, and I made sure that I did just a little bit less than a 1/4 inch seam when I got to those points, and it really did help. So I'm going to go back and put my bottom row on the same way onto this churn dash row. I'm going to sew on the churn dash side again, that bottom row, so that I can see every little seam here and try to make sure that we get those points showing properly. So I'll be back after I have that all sewn together, and that will actually be the last row that we're putting on. We'll have a quilt here in just a minute. Back. I've got my churn dash row sewn on here, so I'm going to show you guys what this looks like. We probably won't be able to get all of it in here, but here's kind of a bit of it, and let me stand up a little here so you can kind of see a little bit more of it. And I think it all came together really well, but what we'll need to do next is go press the seams that we just sewed all the way across for our rows, and I'm going to choose to press mine upwards. And then when I get down to this churn dash row here, at the top I'm going to press it up, and at the bottom I'm going to press it down. And that's with all the bulkiness in here, it's going to want to go that way, so it'll just be easier if you press that bottom one on down. So I'm going to press this, and then I'm going to come back. I have a couple of tips to tell you about. I just finished ironing all my seams, and so the quilt's all pressed and ready to go. So I hope that you guys have really enjoyed this Cozy Up Mystery Quilt that we did. I think it's super cute, and a special thanks to Melanie Call, who designed this for us. I think it's going to be a real hit, and you guys will love it. Your next step on this quilt is to quilt it using your preferred method, and then bind it. And we included the pre-made binding for you guys, so this will be a big time saver. As far as quilting, I know for me, because this is actually only the 3rd quilt I've put together, I don't feel like I had the experience or the time to do the quilting on my own machine. So if you are new to quilting, or if you're time pressed, I would highly recommend that you send your quilt off to a long arm quilter, because they can do it so beautifully and so professionally. So if you happen to need names for that, just email us. We'll have a link to our email address below, and we can send you a list of a few names of people that you could contact about quilting. Lastly, I wanted to let you know that we do have a contest running on Instagram. So if you have your quilt completed, take a picture of that and put it on Instagram, and add the hashtag Cozy Up Mystery Quilt, and we'll see your entry. You need to have that up by November 26, 2018. So if you're watching this a year later, the giveaway's already done. So November 26, 2018 will be the cutoff date, and we're going to draw a winner. 3 prizes. We have long arm quilting available from Vicki at Orchid Owl Quilts. And we have a $25 gift card from our shop. And we have a scrap bundle full of Christmas fabrics as well. So we'll have 3 winners, we'll randomly draw, so be sure to enter over on our Instagram page, and we'll have a link for that below as well. Thank you guys for joining in. I hope you had a good time doing this, and I hope you're happy with your quilt. I know I am, and I'm super excited to use it for the holidays. Talk to you later.